All right, Haaris, how crazy has this offseason been for you? 1 to 10.
It's been 9.5 at this point.
Nine and a half? I would have thought you said like 11. It's not even free agency yet.
We'll see what happens when July 1st hits, and I think that's when it'll just go over the top.
You know what? Here on Instant Replay, this is your host, Zoeb Nakvi. This week in the studio, we have Haaris Kirmani, who we talked about everything from the CP3 trade that broke news yesterday. We talked about Jimmy Butler. We talked about Haaris's boy, DeAngelo Russell. We talked about everything. What else did we talk about, Haaris?
Talked about Dwight Howard. We talked about
man,
potential
Dwight.
landing spots. For
Dwight's going to
Paul
be a
George.
three-point shooter next year.
Oh, yeah.
Look out for that.
Do the Brook Lopez.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, hope you guys enjoy the podcast.
Bringing it back.
Okay, that'll lead us into the whole topic of this is the offseason. How
Yes.
crazy this offseason has been compared to the regular season even. It's probably been more exciting than the regular season. I've been excited watching this. We talked about this last time. Like you just brought up before the podcast even started recording how we talked about the playoffs. I mentioned that it was probably the most boring playoffs I've seen in a long time.
What?
And I stick by that. I still stick by that. And I think the league's going to be very boring except a handful of teams now because of what's happened in the offseason. So let's go through those offseason moves because it's been an amazing offseason so far. And the best part is it's not even July 1st yet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be a massive
Isn't
day.
that insane?
Yeah.
It's not even July 1st yet. And we've had massive top 10 players move in the league.
I think it's nice in the fact that I think people are now seeing exactly how great Golden State is.
Yeah.
And rather than lay down and die, these teams
They're
are
actually gambling.
Exactly. They're like, you know what? Let's make some moves. Let's see if we can actually compete and take down this juggernaut.
Biggest moves so far. We'll get into the other moves. Biggest moves so far happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Chris Paul going to Houston for 8 players.
Yeah, it's a massive
I've never
deal.
seen that before. Have you ever seen 8 players traded for 1?
Not off the top of my head that I can recall.
Right?
It's just
That
been a massive deal. I
doesn't
mean, a lot of
happen.
it is obviously just cash considerations, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
a huge deal.
Okay, so tell me immediately when you read that, what did you think?
The first word that came to my mind was why. It just was one of those things where, look, I can appreciate Houston wanting to shake things up, and it's just obviously, big name moves
Right.
make big headlines.
Totally.
But it just feels like such an un-Houston move. Daryl Morey is one of the greatest GMs in the league that we have today.
Right.
I mean, they've been at the winning end of so many deals. The Harden coup is obviously
Right.
just on top of that list. And just from all the reports coming out of Harden kind of pushing management to make a move like this, it just doesn't fit right with me because of the fact that I don't see how it, first of all, improves the team, and we can talk about that, but I think they've lost a lot of what made Houston so good, which is the amount of depth they had and the kind of players that they gave up. It was just a perfect fit to Harden, and I just don't see this fit.
Okay, so I agree with you
Yeah.
in the sense that I totally agree with you in the sense that, so if we look at it from the fit standpoint, right? Let's do your first point and then we'll look at your second point.
Yeah.
First point, fit. So when you think about it, Mike D'Antoni just won the award for best coach. Why did he win that award, Haaris? What one thing did he make in terms of an adjustment this season that resulted in him winning, Houston coming third, second best MVP candidate? What was that one move?
He was moving the beard to the one.
He moved the beard from 2 to the 1. Now what's he asking? He's asking the beard to move 1 from the 2 to the 2.
To the two.
What? Explain to me how that makes them better.
I think if I'm to think of it from a Houston standpoint, the only possible reason I can think of it is them overreacting to perhaps how many turnovers Harden had from a point guard perspective. Maybe they're looking to get more efficient possessions out of it. And the idea that, maybe he'll have to face less double teams as a result of it. Chris Paul being a legitimate threat, all of that. That's
like you thinking optimistically, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, to me, it goes completely against what they've been doing from a pace perspective. You've got an older guy. I mean, we in the previous
He is
podcast we talked about
32,
exactly
turning
32.
33.
Yeah, he's coming to the tail end of his career. We were talking about San Antonio as a potential
You
destination
know what's
for him.
also weird is it's a 1-year contract. I think
It's just
isn't
a
it?
continuation.
Like,
he
it's
becomes a free agent.
Exactly.
At the end.
That's what I
Exactly.
mean. He's going to become a free agent.
Yeah.
So it's a 1-year rental. And you traded 8 players, 3 of which we know for sure, like Lou Williams, quality player, right? Good contract.
Yep.
Who else was it? It
Patrick
was
Beverley,
Patrick.
wasn't
Oh, Patrick Beverley. I love Patrick Beverley.
Yep.
All the hustle heart you can want in a player.
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect
Great
foil.
defender.
Yep.
And then
Between Montrezl Harrell,
Harrell, all these guys.
Sam
that coming
Decker,
up.
these are all young
Yeah,
guys who
all
were
young assets,
contributors.
and all on small contracts that you would need to like move around and have flexibility. Like Patrick Beverley has trade value.
Oh, absolutely. He's
Right?
gonna. I mean, from now he's probably going to be starting for the Clippers. I don't see them making massive other moves. They're looking to get into more of a rebuild phase, and I can see that. And
Right.
that's why they got the picks as well.
Right.
But Beverly's going to show just how good he is.
Okay, let me ask you this: how much better wins-wise does this make Houston? You can also say a negative number.
I don't know necessarily whether it's negative or not. It's obviously a bit early to say. I think it's a lateral move at the very most. I mean, a lot of it is going to be
So what
matchup
you're
wise and what
saying
teams
is
in the West do.
They're not going to be.
They're not better.
more competitive than Golden State. Oh, you already knew where I was going.
Oh, that was
Golden State
already. That
Warriors.
was not.
No,
It
this
doesn't put
make-
them in any
Okay.
greater chance to win that.
Okay, gotcha. So it doesn't put them in a greater chance. Let's just, for the sake of the argument, let's just talk about this, okay? Because I feel the need to ask this.
Sure.
Best backcourt now? Just answer me that.
I think
You have a top 5 point guard, and you have
The best
number
shooting
2 candidate and MVP.
Yep.
Right, the best shooting guard, as you just said. Are they the best backcourt now?
Yeah, on paper.
On no, I'm asking you in terms
Yeah,
of like
if we were to look in just a vacuum and we're playing 2-on-2 ball here, I'd probably be taking
2-on-2.
Harden and Chris Paul in most
Would
of these
you?
lines.
I don't know. I don't know.
Versus Curry and Thompson,
Yeah.
that's probably the argument. And see, the reason why Curry and Thompson would be better is because they complement each other. It's not just about from a talent perspective; those two are better. If we're just getting at Harden and Chris Paul from a pure vacuum talent perspective, is the most
Right.
talented backcourt in the league.
Right.
But that doesn't translate to wins, and it doesn't translate to a type of ball which 2 ball dominant players play. Again, Harden was the second most in possession time last year. Chris Paul was 7th. So these are 2 top 10 possession ball dominant guys.
Yep.
It's gonna be interesting. Not to say they couldn't make it work. I just don't see one why they made the move, and secondly, how this potentially makes them better.
Yeah, I agree in terms of, I mean, I honestly have no clue, but what I do respect is that, as crazy as this may seem from my perspective, and maybe yours perspective as well, as crazy as this may seem, it's nice to see a team that's just not rolling over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, listen, man, here's our cards. Here, move the chips in, all in, let's do it.
Yeah, but there's better moves that you could have made if you were going all in.
Oh, I'm sure. And you could have given up less.
Yeah, you could have given up less. There was different positions of need for Houston if we're talking about them that needed a lot more than a point guard. I don't think point guard or the backcourt really is an area where they needed it.
I agree.
They had the piece of either Lou Williams or Eric Gordon.
I
Both
totally
of them.
agree.
They should have used that to be able to either get a better 4, a younger 5 instead of Nene as your back. It's just not one of those moves that feel very Houston-like to me. And it just sounds like Harden was the one who was kind of the architect behind it. And
Right.
we'll see how it works out for him.
Right. I think. Well, ticket sales are going to be through the roof.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Houston. They're going to do great. I have Houston fans right now, like friends that are Houston fans, and they're just so excited.
Yeah, big name.
Slightly worried, but super excited because
Yeah.
of the reasons we laid out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see in the Western Conference now. Houston's obviously either at par, but media is going to be all over them, surrounding them this year, and rightfully so. Okay, what do you think about? Okay, so that's one move that's happened. That's the exciting part.
Actually, I was going to say, does that move kind of give you the Lakers vibe back when they made the Steve Nash move almost? It just,
No.
Not to the
No.
same level. Nash
Steve
maybe
Nash
more
was
of an
like
injury.
36.
No, I get that, right? It's just this idea of how the media, as you say, will pick it up. All of a sudden, they're title contenders, all this coming in, where to me
Oh,
it
they're
just
not
seems
title
like
contenders.
people already put Houston at
Oh,
that.
stop it.
Yes.
They're not even number 2 in the West yet. They're not They're
No,
like the
no.
same spot.
They're them in San Antonio, yes.
Yeah,
the idea being
they brought it closer to San Antonio, in my opinion, but not like
No.
like they're much better than San Antonio. The argument can be made that they've gotten better than San Antonio, but I wouldn't say they're better than San Antonio.
No, they're
It's
not.
not definitive.
it's just one of those things where it's sexy.
Agreed. That's exactly it. It's appealing to the media. It's appealing to mainstream. It's appealing to the newspapers. We're good to go.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's one off-season move, which obviously has a huge impact on the league in the Western Conference. Another, and this is so funny that everything's happening in the Western Conference, and correct me if I'm missing anything on the East, but another move that happened.
DeAngelo.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But the Western Conference, Jimmy Butler got traded draft night.
What?
To Chicago. Firstly, let's talk about for Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn and a first-round pick. But exactly. Tell me what you think about that trade.
I think Chicago had themselves put into a pretty tough position as far as it goes.
Yeah.
They're kind of in
I
this
think they
between
voluntarily put themselves in that position.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with, look, they've got a lot of vets on their team, and they were obviously trying to do something in terms of pushing. It almost seems like when Brooklyn brought all those old guys in between, Pierce, Johnson, all these guys to try to make
worst
this
trade ever in Brooklyn history. They've sacrificed their entire rebuilding phase.
Yeah, and they're still eating it, and Boston is loving it. But it's just one of those things where you can see, again, going back to this idea of what's sexy and what sounds good at one point, but the result is something different. And as a result of that, Chicago is finding themselves in this position where they're like, okay, we got to find a way out of this. And I just feel like Jimmy Butler, who's going to be coming up on his contract as well.
Jimmy Butler's contract is awesome.
Yeah,
have you seen his contract?
Oh, absolutely.
Though? But I think he has 2 more years though.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Those was Chicago's biggest assets. So they instead then decided, look, it's going to be a situation where we're going to be bad for the next little while now.
Yeah.
They're probably going to try to buy out either Wade, who's now called into his player option, or Rondo. Like, there's all these things they're going to do to go younger and tank.
Yep.
But
so you do think they're going to start trusting the process?
Oh, 100%. They're trusting the process.
That's what they're doing. That's what you think they're doing.
Yep.
That's what I was just about to follow up and ask you. So they are going to adopt the Philadelphia methodology.
Maybe not as bad as Philadelphia.
Not as bad, not
as
as obvious, not as blatantly obvious, because they're going to be like, look, we just got, Chris Dunn, and we got Zach LaVine, who's a 20-point per game scorer, and he's going to lead the team now.
It's exciting.
No, he's not.
It's exciting. I like watching Zach LaVine. It'll be fun to see him.
He's not going to lead the team. He's not a 1A player. He's not a leader on a player, any team. He's a great third option. That's it.
He could very well be like a Devin Booker kind of situation where it's being, force-fed into him, and
sure.
perhaps he'll thrive in that. But yes, Zach LaVine doesn't jump out at me as a top leader for a team.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So then we look at, obviously, Minnesota. Minnesota playoff team or not?
Yes.
100%.
They are definitely. Especially with
the idea. Did you say that at the start of this season, though?
I was hoping that for the start of this. Yeah.
So are we being just bullish, or do you genuinely mean that this time around?
Well, I think they've got, as you said, they've got more talent this time around. They've gotten better from a defensive standpoint, which is, and Tom Thibodeau obviously loves Jimmy Butler, so chemistry comes in there. And I think Jimmy Butler is the kind of guy who just makes the guys around him also just have that little bit more hunger. He's just that kind of player.
And I think he's just tougher. Like, he doesn't take shit from players on the court. You know what I mean? And that just helps younger players.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Exactly.
Right? So he's the type of veteran leadership, but he's not like that old where he won't perform. You know what I mean? Like, you need veteran leadership for that young core. 100%. That's what Philadelphia doesn't have, right? Which is what I think is going to be their missing Achilles heel, because Minnesota is one of those teams that had the most 10-point leads going out of the first half and then blew them all.
Yep. And a lot of it has to do with, again, their bench depth as well, which, it's still a kind of question mark as far as it's concerned going forward. But I think a lot of what changed them in the second half of the season as well last year is, apart from Rubio getting healthier and back in rhythm, it's that Zach LaVine's injury almost took away from the fact that, Rubio, who is a low usage point guard, was getting next to no touches.
Yeah.
And it was totally changing around their offense. They were becoming very ISO heavy, and it was hurting Karl Anthony Towns as well. Totally. So for them to have a healthy season and healthy Rubio, who I think is incredibly underrated, that's going to change around how their entire offense runs. And definitely a playoff team, especially with some West ones potentially going out.
Follow up to your Rubio point. I'm hearing rumors. There's reports out there, league sources.
Yes.
This is going to impact both you and I a lot. Jimmy Butler is recruiting a certain all-star point guard from up north. Kyle Lowry's being in the mix. What do you think about that? If that happens, I think they've gotten significantly better. Not Golden State level, but I think they've gotten significantly better.
Yeah. Alongside Kyle Lowry, they've been talking about as well, Carroll could be involved in that deal. Like all these kind of things
I'll ship Carroll.
Yeah. It's not that you won't ship him. I don't want to ship Lowry, but the idea is being that yes, they will be able to get these pieces that can make them far more competitive and maybe even a top 4 or 5 team, depending on how things end up rolling out.
Right, but I've always had my point about Kyle Lowry. I don't think he deserves the max, and if Minnesota's willing to give him the max, it's okay. He deserves to leave. Similar to Biyombo, I loved Biyombo back in the day, back when he played for us. High energy off the bench. But, I mean, come on. We can't match, 16, 18 million?
18 million.
Come on.
But, see, I think, in Kyle Lowry's situation, I think it is different because if you're talking from a purely performance standpoint, he does deserve it. It's more you worrying about a future.
That's what I'm worrying about. I'm not worrying about the current year. I'm not worrying about the year after. I'm worrying about the 3rd year, the 4th year, and the 5th year in the contract.
And kind of as I look back to when we were talking about it earlier, even if you have that kind of albatross contract now, I just don't see why you don't do. First of all, you don't do it as Toronto because you should, as far as I'm concerned. And Masai has shown that he's able to trade any contract if it gets to that point. You can always, an expiring deal is always a huge asset. Exactly. So if you can sign him to a 4-year deal, which would be ideal, that would be something that I think we should do. And I like Rubio. I don't think that he's anywhere near Kyle Lowry level. And I just don't see why Toronto would be looking to do something like that unless they were getting a lot of assets back.
Yeah, fair enough. But Kyle Lowry is a free agent too.
Yes, he is.
Right? Unrestricted.
It would be a sign and trade. That would be the idea.
Okay, you're expecting a sign and trade.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. So we've talked about Minnesota in the West. Let's talk a little bit about let's balance this out and let's talk about 2 players in the East and where you think they're going to end up. We got, obviously, the number 1 name that's right now is Paul George.
Yep.
Right? He's going to, he's in the mix for Houston. He's in the mix for San Antonio. He's in the mix for Lakers. He's in the mix for Boston. He's in the mix for Cleveland. And every single day, I get a new report. Oh, they're getting close to a deal. Like a new team is getting close to a new deal with the Pacers front office to get Kevin Pritchard to get him, going. It just, where's he going?
It's just easy for nice clicks that everyone thinks they're going to be getting Paul George. Right?
I click heavily.
Excellent. Absolutely.
I click every single time I see it.
Exactly.
Is it Cleveland? No. Okay. Damn it. You know what I mean?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the one team that can guaranteed get him is Boston. It's one of those where I think Boston is holding out to see what kind of a complimentary piece they could get, because if they were to call up Indiana and offer up the kind of assets that they have alongside the contract, they could get that deal done.
So this is the asset. Apparently, this is the I'm sure you heard about this, but today apparently, 1st round pick for next year, the Brooklyn pick, the Lakers pick, and one of the starters.
Exactly.
That's the trade they want. And Pacers, that's what Pacers want, and Boston thinks that's too high. What do you think about that trade?
Again, I think it kind of goes back to what Boston can get from a complimentary piece. If they get Paul George, they don't want just Paul George. They'll be looking at seeing, okay, can we also get potentially a Blake Griffin? Can we get a
Gordon Hayward? That's
Gordon Hayward. Those are the kind of guys that they're otherwise
Gordon Hayward is, I think, a done deal.
It's one of those where Boston could at this point pick up any one of those.
Yeah.
It's just whether they could get both of them, which is what I think they're trying to break out. Out of those 3 players, I think is where they're trying to kind of find a way to get 2 of them over.
Which 2 do you think they should take, and where do you think they rank now on the Eastern strength scale, of things like powerhouses of the Eastern Conference? Do you think they're going to dethrone Cavs? So 2 questions there.
Sure. First of all, I think they would love to get Blake Griffin.
That's 1.
Actually, absolutely a big upgrade at the 4.
Yep.
And honestly, as I've spoken to this before, I consider Gordon Hayward and Paul George to be pretty interchangeable. But I think at this moment, Paul George is one. First of all, he said he's not coming back. I think Gordon Hayward is maybe more of a tougher sell on that, because I think Gordon Hayward actually likes it in Utah. So I think Paul George and Blake Griffin is who they would want, and I think most realistically
is not coming
be able
back.
to get.
For a fact, after a year, he's going to leave.
You know what? A lot of people say these kind of things, but success changes. So if they were to, let's say, come there, you make it to the finals, make it tough, and see that, hey, look, we're actually one piece away versus the dumpster fire right now. That's the Lakers.
Yeah,
I think that can really play heavily on your mind, especially.
But the dumpster fire might have LeBron James after.
We don't. Again, a lot of pieces can pass.
We don't know. There's so much happening.
Exactly. That's the power of free agency, right? So.
God damn it.
Do this and see how it transpires the year after.
Okay. So Paul George, you think the likely scenario is that he ends up in Boston?
Likeliest scenario, yes.
Likeliest scenario is he ends up in Boston along with Blake Griffin, who I would love to see that Eastern. Now then you kind of have that competitive side of the Eastern Conference again.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like before, like everyone knows it's a done deal. Cleveland's gonna win, but now you'll actually Like, if Cleveland beats that Boston team, you got to give LeBron credit for beating a team. That's what I care about here as a LeBron fan. Someone give LeBron James credit for walking through the Eastern Conference every year, because it doesn't happen like this.
I think people will historically come back and see that. I mean, even in the year that they beat Toronto in the conference finals, all the teams that Golden State walked through to get to the finals had a worse record, and the Eastern teams had a better record against all the opponents.
Hey, man, you're preaching the same thing I say. Okay, cool.
It's just one of those things.
Okay, cool. So then let's talk about a more I don't even know how to describe, chaotic situation, that is the buyout option that apparently the Knicks will exercise on Carmelo. I don't see it happening, but what do you think?
I think the Knicks will do anything in their power not to have to
agree.
do something like that. Absolutely. It's just...
I mean, they've already done it. They fired Phil Jackson.
Yeah,
right?
they've already got $24 million.
Step one, fire Phil Jackson.
Exactly. And I think secondly, look, apart from all this, I actually will give credit to Melo. He's kept himself very professional throughout this entire
Just played basketball.
ordeal. Exactly.
All you see on Instagram is him, like, Father's Day, he's playing with his kid. You know, like, he's just training for basketball, getting better. That's all he's focused on, not talking to the media, you know, dealing with his own personal stuff, you know, that he's going through. But that's it.
Exactly. And
despite being, like, his reputation being dragged through the dirt this entire season, despite that.
Exactly. And despite all of this, he's shown that he wants to stay in New York, all things considered. I mean, it's pretty clear he likes it there. His family likes it there.
Yep.
It's not really a destination he's looking to leave. And I don't think necessarily that he's in that only ring chasing mode just yet. He's got a couple more years before that happens. But again, the chips may fall where they may. I just don't see the Knicks wanting to do a buyout. That being said, if they were to get a nice enough trade offer.
Yep. Where do you think that trade offer comes from? Or, two questions. And where do you think Carmelo would want to play out of the scenarios that he has? He has LeBron James in Cleveland.
Yep.
He has the scenario in Houston now,
Yep.
right? Which everyone keeps forgetting. Like, people are throwing that around, but Mike D'Antoni and Carmelo don't necessarily see eye to eye. They've played together already.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Carmelo does not play the Mike D'Antoni offense.
No.
He does not exhibit that, right? Whereas Cleveland does the ISO ball thing, which is exactly what LeBron needs. He needs rest. That's all we need LeBron to get. Like, just give him, instead of 48 minutes a game, just give him, like, 40. Please, just give him 8 minutes of rest. Like, just be plus. Not plus minus, you know, like they're always minus whenever he's off. He's just, you know, keep him off the court and just be able to maintain the lead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to keep par is going to be good enough for him to stay on.
Exactly.
I guess he's probably hoping for the East to stay kind of as it is. So
that's
he can,
what I'm saying, right?
That.
Like, if the East stays constant, West is getting bulkier and better potentially. Why not? Why not stay in the East?
Yep. And I mean, if the opportunity were to present itself, I just don't see the Cavs, for instance, having the straight assets to be able to really entice a trade of that sort.
Yeah,
it would be
sadly.
Yeah, it would just be a situation where either someone's arm gets a ring to a point where either a buyout happens, or a Knicks that are willing to accept some lowball offer just because they might lose him for nothing otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Now let's talk about your favorite player. I don't know why I said that, but because you brought it up earlier, who's considered, and I'm going to use this loosely, the snitch of the locker room. DeAngelo Russell got traded, which was a big deal. DeAngelo Russell got traded for Brook Lopez, and is it a first-round pick? Yeah, first-round pick.
Yeah.
So tell me what you think about that trade.
I think it's excellent for DeAngelo Russell to be able to kind of come into a situation where, one, people doubt his leadership abilities. I don't understand that.
People, a.k.a. Magic Johnson, one of the greatest point guards the game has ever seen. Yep.
Fine. That's fine. But you know what? It makes it even more so for you to want to prove someone wrong on that level.
I agree. I think he's motivated. His Instagram shows him already practicing at like 2 a.m. He's motivated.
Yeah.
He's motivated.
DeAngelo's an exciting player. And you know what? He's already shown a bit of the clutch gene and, the ice in his veins.
Oh, stop it. Stop that. Stop that nonsense.
But I do like DeAngelo. I think he's an exciting player. I think it makes for an actually pretty interesting backcourt between him and Jeremy Lin.
Yeah.
Who, DeAngelo's more of a 2 than he is a 1, but I think the situation works out well where Brooklyn could finally actually have some sort of interesting basketball happening over there. And then as far as the Lakers are concerned, yes, they've gotten Brook Lopez, but I just see it as more of a situation where it'll be a cash consideration. I don't think they're keeping him long term.
I think they'll keep him.
We'll see.
I think they'll keep him because like long term, I don't know, whatever he demands, who knows, because bigs can demand whatever they want because the league has so few of them, and he's actually a skilled quality big. But yeah, let's see what happens in terms of obviously. Let me ask you this: DeAngelo Russell comes back to LA. How many points does he drop?
Wait,
over under 40? 82?
No, I'm
That'd be
kidding.
hilarious.
He'll
Over
come
under
and drop.
40. That's a reasonable target.
Yeah, reasonable target. I think he'll be looking to drop something. He'll be looking to drop 50.
50?
What?
Like he's gonna shoot how many? 30? 35?
It's not like anyone else is shooting in that team.
I
so-
totally agree. That's why I'm asking you. 30, 35 shots. 50
Yeah, him and
points.
Linsanity can just shoot 30 each. And
That's
see
what I'm
happens.
thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, cool. So that establishes that trade, I guess. So who do you think is the winner of that trade? Just to wrap this up.
I think Brooklyn finally got a win out of a trade. It's
Yeah.
just one of those situations where, one, Brook Lopez was in a place where they couldn't really utilize him anyway, so
Yep.
they got some young assets out of it to give him some time to get back into respectability.
Yep.
So it's good. Let's
Okay,
get a
so
win.
let me ask you some other notable players to wrap this up. Where do you think they're gonna end up now that free agency is today's the 29th, so 2 days away?
Yeah.
Okay, July 1st, come midnight. I think it's just gonna be chaos everywhere. People are gonna be signing left, right, and center.
Yep.
Paul Millsap, where does he go? Because there are rumors for sign and trade.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's just
He's old. He's old.
yeah. If Atlanta is also trusting the process, as you say, I could see him going to one of the contenders on there just as a cheaper option.
One of the contenders?
One of the contenders.
Okay, fair enough. Who would that contender be? Because it matters.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if he goes to Houston, Houston gets better.
Absolutely. If
Right?
he goes to Houston, if he goes to San
He's a great
Antonio,
third wheel.
he goes to get better. If he can go to
Oh, San Antonio.
Yeah.
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 We didn't even talk about LaMarcus Aldridge.
Oh yeah, that was gonna be the
Okay, next name, LaMarcus Aldridge. Let's skip Paul Millsap. Okay, LaMarcus Aldridge. What? He wants to leave.
Yeah.
Who wants to leave San Antonio? I've never heard of that in my life. I was so shocked when I heard that. Apparently, the rumor has it, this is what I heard on the Bill Simmons podcast, is the Podfather, as they call him in the podcast world. The rumor is that he still hasn't gotten over himself. He came in to the San Antonio organization. He thought he was going to be the heir apparent to Tim Duncan. That's what he didn't like about the Blazers, because everyone considered it a Damian Lillard's team. Now that time has passed, Kawhi has emerged as clearly the best player on that team.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't like that. He wants to go to a team where he's the best player. Explain to me how that makes sense. You're in a system that averages 60 wins a year, right? How can you not want to stay in that system? Just explain to me that. At least for the rest of your contract.
I think every player has their own personality on how they go about doing things. If you truly think that you're a superstar and want to be able to establish yourself as such, first of all, San Antonio's not the market for a superstar to really just emerge on his own. It's a more team ball kind of situation.
Right.
And for him to potentially want to be in a place where he is the focal point,
Right.
I can see his mindset on it. I just think LaMarcus needs to check himself because he's
Ooh.
just not as good as he thinks he is.
I totally agree. He's just not. He's just not good as he. Well, was he better in Portland, or what made the difference?
I just think he was more of a focal point on the offense, so that just made it look better. As I kind of mentioned last time around, he was being hidden by a lot of good defenders around him as well.
Right.
And he just got this opportunity where he would just get the ball at the elbow, do what you want. You could be inefficient, whatever. You're still going to get us 22 and 9. And Portland didn't have much depth. So they're like, just keep shooting. It's not like they were going anywhere.
It's so funny how when LaMarcus left, Portland didn't even lose like a ranking in the seeds. Like they were 4th. I think they went to 5th. That's the only thing that happened with him going.
Yeah, it was just a change
Damian
of how they
Lillard
played.
and CJ McCollum carried the team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was more sad about the Batum leaving
Oh, that's
Portland
true.
in
That's true. That
comparison.
was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because he's a Swiss Army knife. Okay, so those are the two names big names that come in. Where's Gordon Hayward going?
So I think this is where it's going to be. So if Paul George ends up going somewhere, then I think Gordon Hayward stays. If not, then it'll be the other way.
You actually think he stays?
I think he
gone.
potentially. Why? I don't see why.
You know, part of me is like, the Utah Jazz didn't want to give him the max contract. The last contract that he got.
Yeah.
Didn't want to give him that contract. Right? They really didn't think that he would turn out to be the player that he is, to be quite honest. And maybe that's okay from the front office standpoint. Like, front office got to minimize their costs. I get it. That's how a company works. But a part of me is like, stick it to them now. It's not like you're going to win in Utah. You're not going to win in Utah. No,
as we're kind of talking about here. No, they're not going to win in Utah. But see, I think this is where it's kind of getting to this level where is it really just championship or bust? What is wrong with being? No, I don't agree that it's just championship or bust though. There's value to be had in being a consistently good team and waiting for an opportunity in which you can spring.
No, but if you're getting swept, that's not competitive to me. If you're getting swept in the Western Conference, which if Utah gets matched up against Golden State, again, they will get swept.
With a completely healthy team?
Of course.
Well, Gobert wasn't healthy. Favors isn't healthy.
They'll get swept.
It makes a difference.
No,
They'll probably pull out
They'll
one. Just like I mentioned before. They
You
would
really
probably pull out one
think
or
that
two.
they will pull out one win against Golden State
Yes.
if they're healthy?
Yes.
If Golden State is healthy.
Yes, it's just one of those things where if you have defense up to that level, you can pull out one game out. You can stifle an offense for at least one game in which your offense, who actually has shown itself to be pretty good, clicks. I just goes back to the same situation of there's value in being a good team. I think back to Dallas. You know, it's one of those teams that everyone thought wasn't good enough until they were.
Shout out to Dallas. Shout out to Dennis Smith Jr., who I love. Okay, cool. Do you have a point? You raised your hand in a second.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, another trade that people are just kind of not talking about is Dwight Howard. He's getting moved over to Charlotte, right?
Tell me what you think about that. I think that's irrelevant, but what do you think?
I just think it's one of those, it kind of shows the reality, one, of how the big man has totally changed from a perspective of how Dwight Howard is. But I think it's an underrated move for Charlotte. It's been a situation where they gave up next to nothing.
They'll be a playoff team
a 41 pick.
100%.
Yeah.
Defensively, they got better. At the very least, defensively, they got better. Rim protection. And, rebounding, they got better.
Yeah.
At least, those two things for sure. Yeah. I agree with you.
Sure. Charlotte's an interesting team.
And they didn't give up much, to be quite honest. Miles Plumlee, that's really it.
It was one other, but
there's another player I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Lastly, this is actually a big one. Rumor has it that Andre Iguodala is going to test the free agent market. Someone's going to pay him more money, right, than Golden State. I'm pretty convinced of that. What do you think about Andre Iguodala leaving, and how much of an impact does that have on Golden State?
I mean, the impact is definitely there to be felt. It's about who they end up getting back because obviously Iguodala has an incredibly important role.
Yep.
I think what's helped Golden State out a lot, especially in this last year, is just the development of players like McCaw and Ian Clark, these guys who have come and become really good bench players. Especially, McCaw in his rookie year, and he's just hitting big shots.
Did you see the guy I think it's Jared Allen? I'll have to look up the name.
It's the number 38 pick, which they got specifically
to
be able to
bought
get.
For 3.5 or 3.2 million. Can't remember the amount. Which is amazing.
Yeah, they know how to pick them clearly.
They recovered themselves, and that guy is good, man. He's played for Oregon. I was super impressed with him, like his stats and stuff. He does exactly what they needed. It's not like he's gonna be in and he's gonna be like an Iguodala type player, but he brings the high energy off the bench, which is what they needed.
Exactly, that's really all
and
they need.
Trust their rookies, because I saw their rookies nailing shots in the finals, and I got really upset. I was like, "That's a rookie."
They have them nice guys, and that's
and they're playing in a system which just moves the ball.
Exactly. Any player can hit their shots if you're consistently getting them in a position of success, which is what Golden State does.
Exactly. Well, on that note, unfortunately, we should end this podcast in terms of, just Golden State obviously having the best system. I hate that as my way of ending the podcast.
Best team of all time?
Best team of all time
best team of all time?
No, the Chicago Bulls. Best team of all time.
We'll have to talk about that at a different time.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely talk about that. All right, guys. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this quick podcast. Thanks to Haaris for coming in. We think this is going to be one of the craziest off seasons, hands down, this year that we've ever seen. And so this is going to really change the face of the league. So we'll probably do another one before the season even starts because I'm sure this is not the last move in terms of Chris Paul moving. There's going to be plenty other moves. All right, guys. Tune in next week.
Peace.